The following content is provided by MIT OpenCourseware under a Creative Commons license. Additional information about our license and MIT OpenCourseware in general is available at ocw.mit.edu.
I will talk in behalf of Ceasar McDowell. He should be here this moment, but he had problems in his flight in Chicago. He will be arriving a bit later today. So he's not with us this moment. No problem. This day was planned for my responsibility. I'm with Claudia Canepa. And the next day will be under the responsibility of Ceasar. Okay? And he will be here. And the course is about reflective practice. I will not introduce this moment of reflective practice, but only the course in itself. We have 10 days. We have a format. Each day we will have a brief introduction to each theme, an exercise, and after that an analysis of the exercise. The analysis of the exercise will be the most important part of the course. So we can go to the conceptual elements at the end of each day. The course itself will have three main parts. This week is an introduction to the reflective practice, how Sean conceived this approach and the main characteristic of it. In the next week, the second week, we will have two parts. One is about how to apply this method in some situations, basically in policies and in strategies. We will try to use the method to solve controversies and to improve creativity in strategies. And the second part of the second week will be about the future. The work of Sean is 20 years old, and after him a lot of people have made some developments that can enhance his approach. And the effort is to give you a perspective about the new methods that are emerging now and how they are connected with reflective practice. Indeed, it's very impressive that he was able to conceive this method so timely, so adequate for the 21st century. I hope that at the end this will be clear for all the participants. I think that we should present ourselves, no? My name is Sebastiao Ferriera. I am Brazilian. I have been working for 36 years in development, in South America at the beginning, after that in Latin America in general. And my preparation was in physics, but I was not working in that for a very long time. I think that is all.
And all the work you've done in knowledge management for 20 years, you forgot about that?
Yes, I have been. My work was help people to organize their knowledge to make decisions. I have been doing plans of cities, plans of companies, plans of institutions, and I was not using my knowledge, but most of all the knowledge people have. So my effort has been to help people to be aware of the knowledge they have about the issue they are working with, and to organize this knowledge for making decisions. Thank you.
And Sebastiao is a visiting scholar at the Center for Reflective Community Practice. And I think there's this interesting story about how he became connected to CRCP and how he came across Ceasar McDowell. I don't know if you want to tell the story before I go into who I am and all that. Do you want to?
Okay, I can, and after that you can. Okay. I was designing the knowledge management system for care in Latin America some years ago, and I was looking for who in the world was used with reflective practice, because I was very convinced that reflective practice is a cognitive tool that's very important for people who are in the ground, who cannot base their decision on what they have studied in the university. So it required to be much more in control of their analytic methods. So for care, I was looking for people who knows about reflective practice. I went to the internet. I found a center, here in MIT, directed by Mr. Ceasar McDowell, and I tried to connect him with care. We organized a knowledge fair in care in 2004, and that time my effort was to bring Ceasar as a speaker for the fair. However, it was not possible, and after that, CARE hired Ceasar McDowell for doing evaluation of the work we have done in Latin America about the fair, for preparing the fair, and the impact of the fair in the communities. We was trying to help communities to organize their knowledge and to be more innovative, to be more resourceful, to be more capable of organize their own development. And Ceasar made the evaluation, and after the evaluation, he invited me to come here. And the evaluation was Claudia Canepa working with him, and I met her this opportunity. Okay?
Okay. So this is just to let you know that, this course is about reflective practice for you, so that you can begin to practice some of these methods. But it's a skill that you can teach others. And that is what Sebastiao and Ceasar have dedicated their work to. That's what their expertise is in. So my name is Claudia Canepa, and I graduated from MIT in 2005. I was an MCP and IDRP. For those folks who are not from MIT, we've got two people who are visiting here from CARE, sitting in the back. And we'll all introduce ourselves later, but MCP is Masters in City Planning, and IDRP is International Development and Regional Planning, which is a specialization within the master's program. I had the opportunity to work with Bish Sanyal while I was here, who was a very good friend of Donald Trump. And so through my work with him, I was able to, I didn't even know that this was happening, but in my thesis work, the types of questions that Bish would make to me, the types of, the criticisms, the type of paradigm shifting that he would do with me during the 2 years that I worked with him. I didn't know that I was going through that process, but a lot of what we'll be talking in this course is kind of what I went through with Bish, and then later with Ceasar, when I started working with him on this evaluation of the knowledge fair for CARE. Care is a nonprofit organization that does development work in many different countries. So
Okay.
that's me.
We would like you to present yourselves and to explain us the motivation you have to coming into this course. It's possible? Okay.
So who are you? Where do you come from? Or why are you interested in this course?
What do you expect from this course?
Oh, and we have one more person here who we need to present. This is Janet. She's from OpenCourseWare. She's going to be helping us take notes for this course so that we can put it up on OpenCourseWare, and we have someone taking video as well.
And before people introduce themselves, this might be a good time to, you might have seen the sign on the door as you came in, but as you can see, we're videotaping the course. Sort of a standard thing we say before any videotaping project is if you don't want to be in the videotape for whatever reason, you can sit in the back 2 rows because that won't be covered by the camera. And I guess, Claudia, you mentioned something about how if you say something in class that you're not comfortable with, we can probably take that out later. A lot of this is excessive, but mostly to say this class is being videotaped, and to be aware of that.
Yeah. So if there's anything you don't want videotaped, let us know and we'll take it out. It's okay? So, who wants to start?
I can start since I'm in the front row here. My name is Ezra Goldman. I'm a second-year master's student in city planning. My thesis work is on wireless laptop usage and how that affects people's spatial choice decisions and interaction patterns. And my thesis advisor is Bill Porter, who also worked with Donald Shun on some projects. And so he recommended that I read his book, and I've taken a quick look at it and found it very interesting, and thought it might be useful to take this course and learn a little more about it. I'm particularly interested in the second half. I didn't realize that it was going to go into detail on the future. So
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Chris Liddy. I'm also a second year desk MCP. I have a lot of interest in this class. One, I just think it's a really interesting educational model personally. I don't think there's enough learning how to learn that goes on in school. I'm really interested in how people organize their behavior. My thesis is on environmental leadership and trying to understand how people can shift the way others sort of engage with various situations, particularly relating to the environment. And I'm also really interested in the whole fifth discipline, Peter Senge movement over at Sloan in the organization studies group. And I think he draws a lot on reflective practice, so I thought it'd be good to get some coaching.
My name is Nikisha Smith. I'm also an MCP student, second year. And last year I went to New Orleans, and towards the end of the semester, we kind of had a few sessions with Ceasar, kind of doing trying to do some reflective practice on the work that several of us had done in New Orleans that were on the ground there. So just taking this class to kind of continue that process and just to learn how I can apply it, to my practice as a planner in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Jody Oldham. By profession, a Spanish teacher, but been working for CARE in Latin America for the last 7 years. And was a part of planning for the knowledge fair that we had for the region, and follow-up evaluation. And given our CARE in Latin America has been working with knowledge sharing and knowledge management. And CARE as an organization has a new focus on social learning and knowledge sharing. So this class fits on a number of levels, and we hope to perhaps replicate or use part of it at CARE.
Thank you, sir. Have you finished?
I have. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Vanessa Laya. I am also part of CARE and working in Latin America and Caribbean. And again, as Jody mentioned, our purpose here is to consider this kind of practice for our staff that work on various community development projects across the region, and how we can work with communities to reflect on their knowledge, as Sebastiao mentioned, as well as how CARE itself can improve its own practices, its own programs, to have a better impact on the lives of the poor.
I'm Kate Thomas. I'm a first-year CP student, originally from Chicago. So, and I think I'm here because I missed the consideration of practice in my study.
Okay. My name's Austin. I'm also in the IDRP bit of DUSP. My research is about cities in the developing world that are growing particularly fast, and how the type of growth that they're experiencing may or may not translate into social instability. I became aware of reflective practice. I was working in politics in London for a couple of years, and I found myself thinking a lot about what I was doing, what I saw other people doing. And then I came into contact with an organisation called Conciliation Resources in London that does conflict resolution, and their director was talking about being a reflective practitioner. So I kind of Googled it and came across these books and had a quick look at them and found them interesting, but didn't really follow it up. And then I saw this course, and so then I thought it would be a nice time to follow it up.
Okay, thank you. We are presenting ourselves. You both arrived a bit late. Can you present yourself?
I'm Renilda. I come from the Philippines, and I basically work with a civil society for around 10 years and around 5 years with students teaching. My interest in this course is when I came here, I realized that in my courses, several of the things that professors ask, I've actually asked them in the course of my work. But the difference is that I realize what colleagues used to say, and this is not without offense to America or Europe or to the thinkers, because one of the things they used to say is like, the West loves to build theories upon our practice from the developing countries, and there's a realization that I used not to really just think that take that hook, line, and sinker, because then I thought the Westerners are great thinkers. But when I came, there's a bit of questioning that I realized that there probably is a grain of truth in that, but the whole difference is the Westerners are good systematizers of knowledge, of what happens in a lot of developing countries, because then they ask it in the questions, I realized that the questions I ask sporadically, they are asked here systematically, and they are part of a body of knowledge already, and yet, also I guess without offense to MIT, and yet I guess when you have classes, it seems that professors think that you have never really come from anywhere or any sort of a base experience when, so I was thinking I needed more a course actually that is sensitive to the experiences of developing countries and helping their students actually, develop from that practice, a sort of a reflection from that practice, so that we can actually, you can actually help us how to put it in some sort of, if not as systematized as the way you people do it, then maybe something that can help us do that. I was thinking this is a good start.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Patricia, my name is Patricia Acosta. I'm a Humphrey Fellow with this first program this year. I thought this would be very useful because my year is about purposeful learning. That's what I've come to do. I've come to reflect upon my practice. I'm an architect, urban planner. I worked 10 years in the Bogota Municipal Planning Department, and I've been manager of the master plan. And so this is my reflective year, and so I thought this was very
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. We have a great group, really great group. I hope we will be able to use our expectation and our experience to synthesize what we can learn from each other this period. Okay, I will try to organize some process of thinking, but I will depend a lot of your own effort for going deeper in the analysis, and I hope that this process should be very interactive between us. Everything you should want to discuss, we are open to it, and the idea is that we can go as far as we dare in our analysis, okay? And now, let me see. It's the first time I am using a program in my life. I never use a program. I always improvise in my activities, but I am doing for the first time. I'm following up. People who knows me before knows that. Okay. Now, the syllabus for you, the presentation of the syllabus. Everyone has the syllabus? No. I have some people who have not. And the materials for you too. This. The materials, the reading materials are organized not exactly day by day, but almost following day by day, because the difference is that if an author is used in the first day, I will put all the articles of this author together. The author together, okay? But in spite of that, it's basically in this order. We have some articles that we will give you later. It's not complete yet, but there is one article there is in Spanish, but it's optional for people who knows Spanish, no problem, but not everyone knows that. Let's take a look to the syllabus. ¿Tú no crees que podrías explicar un poco el syllabus o no? ¿Podrías? Yo creo que tú eres más capaz de leer. ¿O no? ¿Ah? ¿O yo comienzo? ¿Ya? ¿Ok? Ya. Today we will present the course, the methodology. I will do a brief presentation of reflective practice, the work of Sean. We will do an exercise about learning, very simple, introductory, but after that we will discuss about the different kind of learning, strategies of learning each one of us have. The next day, so the first day is an introduction to learning. The second day is an introduction to a tool, a reflective methodology. It will be Ceasar McDowell who will lead the section, the second day. The reflective methodology is a way for learning to be a reflective practitioner. It's one way to get experience in reflecting, and Ceasar McDowell developed this methodology. It's very useful. He applied in many situations. He used it in Latin America with us for evaluating our experience. He has been applying here in the United States. And he will make an exercise with the methodology with you. The object of the exercise will be the experience of you today. Okay, tomorrow you will tell about how you live it this first day of the course, and we will use it to go through this methodology. The third day is about knowledge generation. It's interesting because there is a lot of ways for generating knowledge, but we are not used with most of them officially. We use them in our experience, but we have not studied the other methods. This third day we will introduce different methods for knowledge creation, and why the reflective practice is so important for improving our capacity for generating knowledge. And the first day will be on some concepts that are basics for reflective practice, about theories, about knowledge, about practice, and we will try to get a basic domain about this approach. The last day in the week will be on virtual worlds. We will not talk about virtual worlds in the sense that we are more used to with it, but about virtual worlds as constructs that we do in our mind for working. We always that we are working, we have images in our mind, and we work in a dialogue with these images we have. I will explain later about this, but we always are working with this kind of images. And what Sean discovered is that this image is very important for the performance of what we are doing. In his book, he analyzed the kind of virtual worlds that the architect use when they are drawing, and the psychoanalysts how it's much more abstract, the virtual words they use for interpret what people is telling to them. Okay. No, it's okay. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. So, we are presenting the syllabus. Okay? The first day of the second week will be about reframing. One of the most important operations in reflective practice is the activity of reframing, rethinking the way we are understanding. It's when we disorganize all our ideas and to construct it again. It's very important to renew our mind, for renewing our approach, for be able to understand the same problem in new ways. It's one of the most important operations that one professional can do for improving his capacity to solve problems. Most of the difficult problems are not possible to be solved with the approach we are using when we was studying the problem. In most of the situations we have in concrete words, for example, for poor people in poor countries, it's impossible for them to develop with their current frames. Framing the problems the way they are framing currently, it's impossible for them to develop. If it should be possible, they was developing. So it's very important to help people to reframe the way they are analyzing the problems and the way they are designing solutions. We will dedicate 3 days in the next week to this issue, the issue of reframing. The first day will be an introduction. The second day will be about intractable controversies. We will base in the book written by Sean and Martin Rain. The third day will be about strategic creativity, how we can innovate for creating new strategy for people. And the 2 days at the end of the course will be one about conceptual learning. The effort here will be to introduce you to a new way of learning. Is the learning not only on techniques or on structured theories, but how we can learn about the understanding. We have some different components of our analytical framework, and we can have a more flexible mind if we have this kind of learning. And it's the only possibility, I think, for one to modernize, to update our mind at the pace of the world is changing. We will talk about why some professionals get old and are not able to get the pace of the times, and they feel tired, they feel that they are not enough intelligent, they make a lot of effort, and when they are just understand something, comes something new that disorganize everything they have just learned. And in Latin America, I have a lot of this problem with professionals. People always crying that they was just beginning to understand something, and now it's out of date, and they will need to learn everything again. This problem is very interesting. It's more important when people get a bit older, not in the 20s, but in the 30s and the 40s. People begin to feel tired and they give up. Okay? And they began to read something interesting in the weekends, but they begin to feel that they are not living the current times. We will talk about this. Conceptual learning. The way to get to renew our mind in the pace of the change. And the last day will be on what are the future of this effort of knowledge creation in the world. This open processes of knowledge generation and how reflective practice can be useful in this new environment. Okay? Yeah. I don't know if you have some questions, comments, now that you have a more, not so much clear, but a bit clear vision of the course. I didn't talk about some issues that are relevant. No? One is how this course will be evaluated. We will have 3 elements for evaluating: the attendance, the participation, and a brief paper at the end of the course. And the idea is that I will not put notes. I will only put that you have approved or not.
Pass fail.
Pass
fail. That's right.
Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Are each of the proportions for the attendance, participation, and paper equally distributed? Are they each worth 1/3, or are they weighted differently?
The proportions. They have different character. The attendance is a condition. The other 2 will be some points. This moment I have not yet decided about the importance, but I think that the participation will be much more important than the paper. The paper in itself is for helping you to organize what you have learned in this process, and it will be very important for me as a feedback. But the most important is your participation in the course. It's okay? Okay. Any other question? No? Comments? Feelings?
We have 3 more people.
Huh?
We have 3 more people who have arrived. Maybe they can introduce themselves.
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Irma Paixão. I'm also a fellow at the center. Very pleased to be here. I'm developing a project in North East of Brazil with the indigenous tribe, and also work with the immigrants and with the immigrant.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Lee Farrow. I'm also a fellow at the Center for Effective Community Practice. I'm the 2006-2007 Mel King Fellow. Just coming off of a 2.5-year employment with the center to lead the Boston Community Learning Project, which is a reflective learning process with several Boston neighborhoods: Mattapan, Dorchester, South End, and the Dudley area. I'm also formerly in New York and had actually run a community practice in New York for over 30 years before coming to Boston.
Thank you.
My name is Musa Yukaya. I'm a Humphrey Fellow in sports department. Normally I'm in international business field. I'm working on making the trade easy in international trade, what we call trade facilitation. So everything comes new, so we need some new forms of learning. So this is a kind of reflective practice, is a kind of learning technique, so it will be fun for me to follow the course.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So we can begin. And I will make now a brief introduction to reflective practice, and after that we will do an exercise. Okay? So, this is the idea: theory and art in action. Many people think that when we are acting, we don't think. That's not so true. When we are in the spot of the action, we are at the same time we are thinking. We have a lot of images in our mind. We foresee what will happen. We act based on this idea we have, and we go. We don't put too much attention how we are thinking, but we think very hard. The most complex is the problem, the most hard we think. But most of the thinking is tacit. We don't put attention in it because we are focused in the problem, and we don't remember what we have thought. But the kind of thought we have in our mind at the time we are acting, it's very important for the performance, what we are doing. We will talk about the firefighters. There's a book about this, how they think when they are fighting to protect lives, to stop the fires. It's very interesting. One author made research with them, asking them how they think. We will talk about this later. Okay? Reflective practice. Yeah. What's the relation between our actions and our thinking? How we can get back to our experience through reflection? What kind of learning strategy we use? And why some professionals can design much better than others? It's usual to think about that. If one professional perform better than other, it's for two reasons. We normally think. One is because he's well prepared or best prepared, and he's smarter, more intelligent. However, these two explanations are from the outside. The real reason is in the cognitive tools that he deploys in his mind as he is doing his work. And reflective practice is a way to be aware about these cognitive tools that we are using at the same time that we are working. Okay? Who created this approach? Basically two people, Sean and Chris Argyris. They was working with consultants. They was trying to understand why some consultants are better than others. And they began to organize this knowledge in an approach, in this approach. Sean developed this approach more and made a great effort for applying this approach here in MIT in the DASP, the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, to redesign the methodology of the department for teaching architecture and for planning. And he used a lot of this experience for explaining the method. In his book, we read the first example that he gives is about an architect designing their buildings. And after Sean, many people began to use the approach, but until now, most of these applications of the method of Sean is on reflection. The effort of most people who work after Sean was to help them to reflect on their work. Most of the cases after the work. And this is just a small piece of the contribution of Donald Schoen. He was trying to help people to be aware how we think, not necessarily training people in to get back to their experience for understanding this experience. He was trying to help we to understand in a different way how we use our theories, and I will talk a bit later about that, and how we can learn during the process in itself. The reflection that we can do after the work is done, it's useful for training ourselves, but it's not the core of the idea of reflective practice. My effort will be to try to explain these elements.
Would it be safe to say that his work was basically just looking at self-consciousness, just trying to understand our mind, basically, or bring the subconscious to the conscious?
Yes, it's correct. It's to be able to see oneself and one's mind at the same time that we are working, for understanding how we work, we indeed work. Okay? The practice of reflection that we will make tomorrow is useful for training our mind. But the main issue is to be able to observe oneself as we are working. And to observe other people too. To see how they think as they are working. It's very interesting because we can see two things happen at the same time. We can see the people working, and we can see the people thinking about their work. And we can extract their theories, the real theories they are using. It's very instructive for oneself because we can establish a dialogue with them much more real, because it's not about their formal ideas, it's about the ideas they use in their work. Okay, we get a much more real touch with the persons.
And what he's saying, what Sebastiao is saying is key, like the distinction. A lot of people think that reflective practice is reflecting on the actions that you've already done, and that's just one small part of what this really is. And then one quick thing about professional schools. Donald Schoen he criticized a lot of the methods used in teaching in professional schools. He called it the battery model. It's like we're batteries. We go to school and they fill us up with knowledge, and then we go out of school and we use it up, right? And he was like, no. What we need to do is help people, like teach them how to think critically about how they do work, how they do their own work, and how they generate knowledge through their work, because that's really how they're going to be more effective once they leave.
Okay, thank you. We all were trained with this method, okay? The technical rationality. We learn a theory, we acquire some tools, we apply these tools in some concrete situation, and we solve the problem. Okay? This is the reason why we go to the university, for acquiring these theories and these tools. Okay?
Nice blueprints.
The problem is that in some cases the problem is not identified. Or we have the problem, but we have not the theory for this problem. Or, as we will see later, we may have the theory, but we may not be able to use the theory adequately. Okay? Let's go. Okay. The reflective practice is built on the critique to this method. Okay? Schoen made the criticism critics in two components, in two areas. One, on the applicability of the theory. You may have the problem, you may have the theory, but you may not be able to apply the theory. There is the dilemma between rigor and relevance. I will explain a bit later. The other question is the difference between theory in use and espoused theory. I will explain later what are these two concepts. Yes? Okay? Yeah. If we go to a real situation, I always remember a small town in the highlands in Peru. It's a very good reference for me. 12,000 feet over the sea level. Very poor people. We come in the city, a small town, not a city, just a small town, and people are waiting for a solution for their problems. They think that after 3 or 4 days workshop with them, they will find the way to get out of poverty, and that the consultant will be able to do this for them. No? And the problem is that it's very difficult to understand the real condition they are living. It's very hard to, indeed no one knows how they will develop. This is the real situation. And we can use all the material we have learned about competitivity, about city planning, about how to help people to go out from poverty. But when we have a concrete situation, all these theories are just it's impossible to apply them in this. We need to, in some way, to combine everything we have in our mind and to see what part of each one of these pieces of knowledge, theoretical knowledge we have, that can be useful for this group of people. And we need to construct in this moment an approach for the problem they have. And if this way to use the theoretical knowledge we have is one of the main efforts of Sean to help us to be more free to use just one approach and to combine everything we think that we can use. Okay? And at this moment, we need not only our professional training, but our experience, our intuition, our feeling about what could work. Okay? And for tackling relevant problems, we always need to be much more an artist than an technique. Okay? Okay. Theory in use in espoused theories. And three weeks ago, I was trying to design a strategic planning for scientific and technological development in Peru for the National Council of Science and Technology. I met with the scientists for talking about this issue, how a small country like Peru could evolve in this world. Most of the scientists had an assumption that the science should be used for helping the poor people to get out from poverty. This was the main idea they have in their mind. But they was not aware about that. They was talking about how to improve the universities, how to improve research, how to connect research with the companies, how to contribute to the competition, to the competitivity of the companies. This was the formal discuss. But when we went to the priorities they designed for the country, all the priorities were in function to the most poor people in the country. They was concerned with camelids, alpaca, llama, alpaca, vicuña, camel, llamas, alpacas. They are camelids. They live at very high lands, very high lands. Okay, 12,000 feet, very high. And their priorities were camelids, biodiversity, and fisheries. And these priorities have nothing to do with the trends in science and technology in the world. And they were scientists. It's very interesting because formally they were able to tell about science today, the trends, but in the moment they decide their priorities, they go to another framework. So they have in their minds two different schemes for thinking. One is the formal, and the other is the real. Okay? It's not clear about this?
Another example.
Another example.
I can give you another example. In city planning, you have a lot of people who will work in developing information systems for city planners so that they can better plan service delivery in the city. If you can have people work really hard at trying to collect this data, make it as accurate as possible, as user-friendly, the system, so people can use it. And so people will talk a lot about the empowerment effects of data. So those are the spouse theories, right? But a more subtle assumption or theory in use is that they're thinking that that the problem for service delivery in a city is lack of data, and they'll focus a lot on. I mean, it's the idea that it's like the black box you put in. If you provide the right data, then service delivery will improve. And I'm thinking more in like developing world, where you've got like cities are growing by 5% per year, and so it's very volatile. And so it's interesting that when you get some of these technocrats that are really focused on building information systems to make that assumption explicit, suddenly they start approaching their work differently, and they realize it's not just about collecting data. There are other factors that are preventing these governments to provide the services they're trying to provide. That have. I don't know if that's clear. Maybe that's not clear.
It's about assumptions. Theory in use is about assumptions that we use in our work. For example, in MIT, a lot of people think that if I go to a poor country and I help them to innovate their technology, they will be better. Okay? There's a lot of programs of this in MIT. Okay, we can work in the. No? This is the assumption. The real assumption is that it's a lack of technology the main reason for poverty. If I operate on this variable, everything will work better. Okay? This is theory in use. I think that with this example, no, we get. The espoused theory is the explanation about why we work. This is espoused theory. Is when someone ask us how we are working, we explain how we are working. But most of the cases, the way we work and the explanation that we use are different. Okay? Yeah. The question is how to combine the espoused theories and the experience for creating solutions. Okay? The awareness. Okay? And how we can be more professional in situations that require a lot of artistry. This is a big contribution of reflective practice. We can improve our professionalism in concrete situations that requires a lot of creativity, a lot of improvisation, a lot of doing things that we have never done before. How we can be more professional in this kind of situations. And this kind of situation we face every day when we are working in the ground. Okay? This is Sean explaining, he made these questions, no? What procedures I am enacting when I perform this skill? How I am framing the problem that I am trying to solve? No? It's this kind of stuff. Okay? Finally, it's about ownership of our knowledge. It's very important for us. It's much more important for people we are working with. In less developed countries, people have a lot of knowledge that we are not aware about this knowledge. We don't recognize the knowledge they have. And if we don't recognize their knowledge, they don't recognize their knowledge. Okay? People need recognition. Social recognition, formal recognition. One of the most important things we have learned with the knowledge fairs we have organized is that to recognize the knowledge that people have is very important for them. They feel much more empowered if they if some other people external to them help them to recognize their knowledge. They feel much more strong. They can decide much better. And one of the main efforts of reflective practice is to help people to get ownership about their knowledge. And for ourselves too. And this is finally, it's how to have an evolving brain.
So I wasn't imagining.
Okay? It's the best to have known how to get an evolving brain. If you work always with the same theories, the synapses and the connections in our brain are always the same one. If we are evolving in our theories, and most of all, if we are evolving in the concepts we are using, the concepts are like, we will talk about this later, are like neurons, the concepts. The concept is something that have a lot of connection with a lot of things. At the time I begin to use a new concept, my brain begins to use new connections. So to evolve conceptually is a way to evolve our brains. Okay? It's not the youth source, but it's very effective for maintaining our brain active. That's all I think, no? This is the presentation. Okay? It's a very brief introduction. I am not trying to be much clear, just to give a brief glance about what is this of reflective practice. Yes.
As I'm watching this, I'm thinking about the not that my brain is working that well, but I'm trying to put it together and reflect and practice. And one of the things that I was thinking, it's been thinking a lot about the process that Oprah did in Africa, where you're trying to find a solution for a problem outside of the country, with $40,000 million, whatever how much she did invest for 150 students. When we have millions of students, they need to be educated in that part of the country in Africa. And I was thinking to myself as I was reading your material this weekend, and it was nice spending the weekend with it, and also reading about those articles, people who take action immediately. You find this immediate reaction, but they have the power to do that because they either have the money or they have the knowledge, but they don't have the reflection of the outcome of what that action is. So I wonder if you know about this, and what do you think about
it? My understanding is that for people, if they can understand better the kind of problem they are facing, it's much more feasible to get resources for them. And my assumption is that there is much more resource in the world that we can channel to the poor people, and much more resources than people can get for them, for their development. And the main problem is not something that we can do here in the developed country, but how we can help them to take control of their situation. I think that the problem is not to put much money in a small group of people, but how this will irradiate in the country, how the other people will be able to use what a small group can learn. I think that more important is to help people to take charge of their situation. And if they do that, they will get this kind of money. And it will not be necessary that we design the intervention from the north. Most of the problem we have now is the programs, the development programs are designed from here. They are not designed from the people who are facing the problems. And I have been working 36 years with these people. When we try to talk with them about their development, they don't feel enough confidence to decide what they will do, how they will invert the resource of the corporation. They are very dependent of the professionals, because we are the only people who have formal recognition. We are the engineers, we are the doctors, and we always make very clear for them that we are, and they are not. So for me, this kind of approach is very useful, because they can control their knowledge once they began to learn to think this way. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay? Yes.
I was wondering if you would consider in the practice of indigenous peoples as something that engages into reflective practice. I am asking this question because with the indigenous peoples, in my experience, especially those who are at the hinterlands, mainstream society, those who are, as you say so, define themselves who are professionals, usually, create and impose solutions of how, like for example, how these tribal communities should manage resources, and yet we know that communities have survived, centuries, that means thousands of years, and that says something about their ability to adopt, about their knowledge of the environment, so that is that a reflective practice they're doing, or do you need to be able to explicitate that you know what you know when you're doing it, so that it becomes qualified as reflective practice?
Okay.
I'm not so sure.
Reflective practice, this approach is an effort to make our tacit thinking and our tacit knowledge explicit. With people with indigenous people, my experience is that they are very smart, they are very intelligent, they are very knowledgeable. Okay? But it's very difficult for us to be enough flexible to enable them to express their ideas in the way they prefer. Okay? And I 10 years ago, I made a workshop with chiefs, only chiefs. All of them are chiefs of their tribes. Okay? Very interesting. And I made no concession, intellectual concession to them. I was absolutely rigorous in their analysis. And I had no problem with them. But we have very different languages. In the workshop, I explained the strategic thinking in a concrete way, not theoretical, but in concrete way, how we think when we try to design a strategy. And after that, our dialogue was, after the explanation, they told me a story. And through the story, they are trying to verify if they have it understood what I was explaining. All the stories they told me were absolutely correct. Okay? They are very capable of understanding strategic thinking. I had no problem with them. We designed a very good plan. And the question is that the facilitator needs to adapt himself to the way of thinking that they have. This is the problem. Reflective practice help us to be aware how torpe, descuidado, awkward, thank you very much, how awkward we can be when we are talking with people. Okay? But if we are not perfect, but not so much awkward, they take the lead and they begin to express their knowledge. And I think that's very important for them to be the author of their plans, because if they are the author of their plans, they will learn from their mistakes. If we are the author of the plans, they will not learn from our mistakes. they will just discard us. But they will not learn. But they will waste time and waste money and waste opportunities. So it's very important when we are working with people to help to enable them to express the ideas in the way they are used to do, and be very aware that the responsibility of the conclusions and the decisions are of them. Okay, just for organizing their learning.
See, there you're adding something different.
Okay.
Just one quick question, which has to do with you're talking about trying to identify other people's logic, not just your own logic, but other people's logic, so that you can understand what they have to, their knowledge, and that's something new that you haven't talked about. This is a new element.
Okay. Yes.
So I don't know where that will fall in the course.
Oh, I will talk about. I suggested one reading about the anthropologist. I will treat it more at the last day of the day before the last day of the course. Okay, how we can adapt our mind to the logic of other people. Okay, thank you very much.
In order to really understand them, because often you're interpreting what people are saying, and then you don't. In that process of interpretation, you're no longer you're modifying what they know in order to understand it through your logic.
Yeah. Just 1 minute. Two persons are asking to talk. The question is, we need to learn to take our logic, our thinking, and to put at the table. To forget it for a moment. Okay? And to follow the logic of the other people. Forgetting how is my way to understand the problem, I put my personal understanding aside, and I just concentrate in listening, how they are reasoning. Yeah, him and after you.
You're saying that the others will not learn from our mistakes, but they will learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
So isn't there any communication? This is one thing. The other thing is that, are you talking about feeling the responsibility of the mistakes? And that's what makes the people learn?
It's very different, the attitude, the learning attitude we have when we feel that the mistake is our, and when we feel that the mistake is of other person. If the other person committed the mistake, we don't do the same effort for understanding the reasons of this mistake. We can discard the person. We will not work with him again. We have different options. We are not so analytical. If I committed the mistake, I will feel much worse. Okay? I will feel ashamed of my mistake, my lack of intelligence. Okay? But this is not a problem. We can recuperate from this. This shame will help us to get back what we. This is the kind of reflection we do in a very accelerated way when we feel ashamed. Okay, we get back to experience. We remember what we should do, and we didn't. Okay, this process is very important for learning. And if I am aware that I am responsible for the decisions, I will be much more analytical before the decision. A great problem of the projects of development, we not discuss this now, but is that the projects or the programs, development programs, are idea with money. Idea with money is a very bad combination. Okay? the money block the analysis. Okay. Yeah. So this is the reason why it's so important to get people aware that they are deciding about their future. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I answered your comment. Yeah.
I think the question for me was about the tacit to tacit handing down of knowledge, and whether it's an indigenous community or whether it's an urban community. I think there are practices that communities have or that people have that they demonstrate, that they model for their children or their community, and they keep practicing those. The issue, I think, and that goes to when the problem is known, when the experience is repetitive. And I think what we're trying to do here is recognize that there are moments when where the problem is not known, when there is a new challenge. When the challenge is known and traditional or regular behavior or assumptions, whether they're professional or technological or intellectual, and you apply them to a known challenge, they work. You don't have to do a lot of making your tacit knowledge explicit. And so one of the couple of words that I heard here were about interpretation in different languages. You were speaking different languages as as a professional versus a chieftain or whatever, and communicating across languages. And that happens when we try to when we try to resolve a new problem or something that we haven't faced before. And that's when I think we're trying to figure out how to make our tacit knowledge explicit for ourselves. As Claudia was focusing, the purpose of this course is, again, reflective practice of oneself, and then trying to share that with others, which is where you started going, and trying to learn that from others, is when you put trying to make your own knowledge explicit and trying to understand the tacit knowledge of others and helping them make it explicit. And so I think that is when we want to do that is when we're faced with a new challenge. If we're faced with continuous, repetitive challenges, tacit knowledge seems to have worked for millennia.
Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
If you say like people are using different language and all that, yeah, that's true. I think at the surface, but for me, the language itself tells you that the assumptions are very different. When people frame, they talk, and they seem to be like we're talking both English, but it seems like the language is not coming all together sensible for both of us. It is because, in my sense, we are basically coming from very different assumptions, and I think that's what happens with professionals going into developing countries or going into development work, or going into communities, because as you say, so you try to take out your eyeglasses, the lenses that you use, but the lenses that you use is basically it also contains even taking away the very pride that we have, that we are professionals. Because the moment you bring that thought that you are a professional and you go to a community, you start, I don't know, that's what my experience is, for the many blunders too. I think that's what happens. And then you go there and you bring that lens even of being a professional, of being an MIT student or being, a graduate of here and there or what. That factors into the whole language, into the whole assumptions. And then about something about new problems and old problems. I think there are things that you may say can be constantly, they stay the way they are, but I think because things are changing, context is actually fastly changing, because when you say things are not changing, the problems are still the same. You have the assumption that context is not changing, or that several factors that define a certain problem are not changing. And to me, that rarely happens, because every day a lot of different nuts and bolts out there that actually make up a problem are actually moving, including people. Because what defines a people also, the interaction of people in a certain context also is part of the problem, right? And I think that's why I always say, like, there's nothing actually that's actually like constant. I'm not so sure if I'm...
Oh, okay, thank you. Indeed, we have talked about different aspects. No, one is if the problem is new or is not new. The other is we have different assumptions, and one of the assumptions we have is that the problem is the same problem before, no? And we talked about the relation between professional and common people, no? That make much more difficult the knowledge change, no? Okay. Do you have something you want to talk before we do the exercise? Yes?
Just briefly. I think also it's not just common professional, it's different perspectives on a situation, whether they be professional or different professions. Mm-hmm. You know, as we see a health professional will look at an HIV crisis very differently than than a social scientist.
Or an economist, or an engineer. No? Yes. And from south and north. So, for me, that I am from the south, it's very complex, this society.
And even, again,
it's very difficult for me understanding how this society works in the United States, because I live all my life in the south. I think that it's the same when we go to the south, how to understand the logic that the society have there.
And again, not just the professionals. I mean, I think that from within a community, we tend to sometimes say, community X, but within the community, there are very different perspectives that we need to consider when we're looking at solutions or problems or whatever we might want to call them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. We need a break. My idea is to make a small break and to do the exercise later. Okay? Yeah.
How much time?
10 minutes, okay for you? Okay, let's start again. We will do a very simple exercise. The exercise try to visualize a learning process. With Ceasar McDowell, we was talking about which kind of exercise should be useful for you, and our idea is some experience from childhood. The first time how you learn to ride a bike, or how you learn to drive a car, is not childhood, but it's very similar. Or how you learn to write your name for the first time in the school. Or something else. If you have another learning experience, you can use it. You are free for using the experience you prefer. But we are giving these examples just for you use if you have not another one. Ride a bike, drive a car, write our name, an experience. The idea is that you will describe this experience as steps in a process. Okay? Not to if you want, you can describe it through phrases, but the idea is to describe it graphically. Yes?
So it has to be, if not any of those, if I don't remember any of those, a skill, Like when I learned a skill, is that the purpose? Is that
The idea is to learn a skill because it's simpler than to acquire a concept or to understand a new technique. Okay? And skill is simpler to describe. Okay? It will not be useful for more complex analysis. It's for introducing to learning process. Okay? We cannot talk about second loop. Okay? Learning will be just the simple process. Okay? The idea is each one of you to remember one experience and to describe the process, how it was, and you will do in your notebook. After that, each one will design it here. We will put all the wall, and we walk and talk to each author, and he will explain us his experience. After that, we will try to discover patterns. What are common in this process and what are the differences? Okay? It's a small introduction to the learning processes.
We have to describe the experience graphically?
Graphically.
Only graphically?
Only graphically.
And then we need, after when you talk about, we need to talk more detail about
Yes, when we visit your booth, you have a booth, okay? When we visit your booth, you will explain us in very briefly, 1 minute, how the process was. Okay? Yes?
Graphically, you mean like a flow chart? Got it? Or
Yes, a flow chart. Okay? You can decide. You can use the way you prefer. You can put it as a mind map, okay, or a flow chart, or anyway. But I was not thinking about paisaje, not a landscape, okay, not drawing, okay, but a flow chart or a concept map. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to think about your learning experience. We made an exercise with childhood. It worked. Huh? I think that my childhood is longer than yours. And I remember to ride a bike. The first fall, what I did later.
Does that have to be childhood, or can it just be learning anything?
Anything you can, but it should be something very concrete for be easier, huh? And simple. Simple, not too much complex. If you want to go to the complexities, you have not much time.
I can't remember anything. I can't remember learning anything.
Yeah, I can't either.
Oh, you did.
I don't know, did you not see this how I first so you hit 40 and then you
No, yo pensaba que cada uno dibuja el suyo.
Sebastiao?
Sí. No va a poder captar, no creo que no.
How abstract did you want to put? Like very concrete, or did you want to kind of more abstract?
The example or the description?
The description.
The description can be abstract.
Okay.
You can use concepts if you want, or if it's difficult for you to describe as a concept, you can describe as actions.
Okay.
Okay? Mm-hmm. You can decide the level of abstraction you will feel comfortable with.
Learning a language.
Can be learning a language. It will be a bit more difficult, but you can use to learn a language.
I just can't remember. Like writing.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Huh?
The experience of learning to ride a bike is so traumatic.
Este de acá. De repente aquí podríamos poner las conclusiones. Después de ver esto, sí. Pensaba después de esto de los patrones. Y poner los 2 o 3 patrones básicos. ¿Está ahí? O tomar por algunos como ejemplo. Tomar algunos. Okay, do you have made, if each one of you please put your experience in this, in one sheet for to show to everyone.
And it has sticky, it's sticky in the back, so you can put it up to the right.
One at a time or all of you? You probably just stick it up and then right on it.
Stick it up to the right, yeah. And then we'll go to that.
It's not going to be too long.
Well, you can test it.
Thank you. Okay. So each one will, yes, will draw his scheme of the process. Yeah, things like that. Okay.
Não vai escrever na parede, não?
No.
Não vai sair da parede?
Não creio, não sei. Né? Não sei. We should be careful because perhaps it's possible. Perhaps should be better to design to draw here. Excuse me. I am afraid
Oh, yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, no problem. No, but this one may be possible. No?
It's okay so far, but I could use a different marker or write something.
Yeah, this is not so strong.
Not so heavy. Okay.
Yes. Oh. To sky, okay. And you to type.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How does that to the front?
Marker? Yes.
No me acuerdo de nada.
Não gostou ver. Ride bike. Read a map. Okay. A experiência de haver aprendido a fazer alguma coisa. Você pode escolher ride a bike, drive a car, anything. Yeah? Okay. Las personas prefieren trabajar directamente en la pared. A la mesa muy chiquita. Me parece bien. Right, very interesting. Yes, markers. Está embarazada. Ahorita tengo que contar, ¿no?
¿Te acaba de contar?
Sí.
¿Cómo así?
Sí, está fallando. Ella es tan intelectual, yo no me imagino cuidando de ella. Ella es bien intelectual. Ay, no. Okay. You make some scheme like this after? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Until I finish. Yeah. Qual é o chá? Esse? Ah, tá.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to use general and then the details of the substitution.
Yes, it's because it's too much text for putting here. No, it's okay. But after that you can add this with this for the course. for the record of the course. Okay, but you can explain. Yeah.
Lo que estábamos conversando es que lo que estamos reconociendo ahora es que los
Destrezas, sí, destrezas, habilidades.
que tenemos, que ya hemos aprendido hace años y años,
Sí.
son tan tácitos
Ah.
que no los
Sí.
recordamos.
Sí, 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 sí.
Y la práctica de reaccionar, todavía no recuerdo. Es que no tengo memoria de aprender a
Interesante. Así que interesante. Sí, qué interesante.
Traté de inventarla y pude inventarla.
Sí. Yo
y
puedo.
aprender a leer o
¿Así?
y que recuerdo aprendiendo el
¿Bailar?
aprender a nadar.
Sí, otro, claro.
Pero nunca aprendí.
Ya, claro, pero no importa.
Así que yo aprendí
Ya.
que todavía no puedo.
Ah.
Aunque varias clases.
Ya. Ya. Es bien interesante. Yo conseguí recordar de la bicicleta porque he hecho el ejercicio con Ceasar la semana pasada y pudimos comparar los dos, el método de aprendizaje que él usó y el mío. Fue bien interesante comparar. Sí, ¿no? Interesante. Ya. Se aprendió a escalar montañas. ¿Sí? 2 años atrás me tiré de paracaídas. Sí. Ah, interesantísimo. Inolvidable, absolutamente inolvidable.
Como me dijo Jory cuando le dije esto, de que no nomás te trepas, como paracaídas, que nomás uno salta. Es complicadísimo, ¿no?
No, en mi caso yo he hecho con un asesor, ¿no? Con un entrenador. Yo amarrado, colgado, ¿no? Si no,
Aún así, tienen que comportarse de esa manera.
Sí. Ya.
Stop it. Here. That's exactly right, but apparently we stopped using in like our 30s. It deteriorates from there. Well, my first instinct is like, well, you should have children because that's absolutely the most repetitive and boring thing you could possibly do in your entire life.
Yeah. Okay. Let's begin. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We will follow the spatial order. Okay. We can begin for this. Huh? Yes. For.
These don't get covered by video, right? Does this?
I think I can
see well. Okay, great.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Let's begin here.
This one is riding a bike. Sorry.
Please.
I remember when I was a kid, the first thing I'd do was really to get prepared. I'd really see if I am in pants because I know I'll fall, I know I'll get hurt, and so I'm in pants. I'm long sleeve, okay, and well, I'm not in any slipper, but at least in a rubber shoes, and I'll see to it that I'll get on the bike to try if the chair is like low or if it actually fits me and it can be comfortable. And I'll make sure when preparing that my brother is around. He has to be there. So, and then I'll get on the trial, which means my trial would be like my brother has to hold on the end of the bike. So I move on and it sways, but I keep like, are you there? Are you there? It's doing like that. So I'm ensuring. So I move, I sway, I stop. I move, I sway, I stop. And scold him like, you're not holding it too tight. So that's it. And then I would, unconsciously, I would not be aware that he would like let go. And so like I would fall. So I move, I fall, I stop. Then I go back again to this one and tell him, no, come on, you've got a hold. You don't let go first and all that. But then there'll be times that I'll succeed, like he's gonna let go and he succeeds, and so I'll be like moving, and then I'll realize he's not there, so I'll stop. But then it gives me confidence that so he was not around. But then if I fall, I'd go back to the process of this one, all this, and then it goes back to there. So this one moving forward. And trying to configure among all this, it's trying to configure what I did well, why was I moving, while he let go, and all that. And so this will be like trying to see, okay, how did I do it? But at the same time, while I'm doing it, it's like I get nervous and like, okay, this one I should hold, this one I should hold, no, this one, and they go together and all that. So while doing all this, and then it goes this stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was very clear. My feeling is that you, from here, you always not necessarily go through this getting prepared. You went directly to this one, or not?
Yeah, this one is just like when I go and start all over again. So
okay.
I go all over when there's another round of practice.
How old were you?
I was, I think 7. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The idea is to identify patterns, okay?
But it was the big bike already. I did not start with small children's bikes. So it was like, when I went into it.
Who is the next?
Can you move this one, Claudia, up front?
Can you move it to the front?
Can you pull down the neck?
Can you put the title and your name, please?
Yeah.
Can you put your name?
Carson, put your name.
Snowboarding.
Sorry.
So it's another physical one. I just began to wonder whether there'll be differences between the physical ones and the kind of non-physical ones that we've got here. But I've tried to describe the processes that I went through as I was learning, and I have kind of compressed it into a thematic or kind of conceptual way of looking at it. But basically, from what I remember, this is when I was about 14. I started off not having done this thing before. I went into a rental shop and I had some instructions given to me by the man who was renting a snowboard, which was along the lines of, you have your feet strapped in, you put one in front of the other, you have to test out whether you're going to slide this way or this way. That's kind of determined from one person to another. But apart from that, there are some universal things which you should be mindful of is how to balance yourself and what you should be aiming for, and always stay on one edge and be careful not to catch another edge because you'll end up flat on your face. And I also had a background knowledge of a different but somewhat related skill, which is skiing. Then, so I took the snowboard and went out on the slopes, and initially experienced some painful failures, which involved you catching an edge and falling on your face and almost breaking your nose or hurting your wrist or something like that. So if we had this on a different plane, we'd like go from initial confidence of seeing other people doing it successfully down to the depths of pain and general depression. Getting to the next stage, I thought that there was a kind of combination of lots of things going on in my mind at once, which is watching other people doing it successfully, learning how to forget the skill that I thought was similar but in fact turned out not to be similar, concentrating on the instructions which the person who could do it successfully had given me already, and also sort of internalising those instructions and learning how I was feeling related to the instructions that I'd been given. And I thought that those 4 areas eventually came together and gave me my first successes, which is this feeling of elation when you are able to do a new skill for the first time, and that was really nice. From there, so am I doing something wrong? Is that why you're talking?
No, it's okay. Okay. I need to explain you. I have limitation for understanding some kind of.
Your accent is different.
Okay.
Okay. He's helping.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
It's
a small.
And we haven't brought him to snowboarding yet, but we will.
Okay. So from moving, I'll speed up a little bit. From moving,
No, actually. Slower.
Okay. So I found that this was kind of an important bit for me, because I found it the first time that I felt I was really in control of what I was doing, and I was able to kind of be conscious of and measure in my mind what I was doing right and when it worked. So this is the kind of important stage. After that, I found that I was refining my technique by experimenting with what I was doing and watching other people more, and sort of this, I guess there's a sort of circle going on here with some failures and some successes and some more painful falls, and then eventually I would find that I'm progressing to what you would call a more advanced level, and I just wonder, maybe there's an interesting discussion to be had about how we deem, how we judge advanced levels, like whether it's what we consider to be advanced or what other people set the criteria for being advanced or whatever. That was just like a train of thought at the end.
okay. Thank you very much. Great explanation. Who will be the next one? Learning to read a map.
That was just
Okay, can you come here?
but I think there's one before.
No, this is mine. I just put it out from the top. Let's move here. It's okay for you?
Learning to read a map, which will be much easier for you than learning to read my handwriting. So I think I was 5th grade, 6th grade, and we did a unit in my social studies class on how to read a map. And we got the basic explanation from our teacher of the rules of mapping, your compass, your scale, notations, grids, how to make your roads and boundaries, what the different sized little lines meant, geographic and topological features. And the assignment was to apply what I knew and draw a map of the United States, making the notations as required. And it was an enormous piece of paper. It was not a small piece of paper. Then I can remember specifically transferring the idea and letting it evolve in 3 basic points. The guidelines apply to any map, basic or complex, and now I can get anywhere in the world that I want to go. Maps show more than geography. They express a lot of ideas, transit maps being one of the immediate examples. And that I can make a map following basic standards which can be read by others and reasonably understood. So that I have the potential to actually pass that along. This is my addendum. These skills ceased to apply when navigating MIT's campus. And I have learned to wander aimlessly for prolonged periods of time and enjoy it, relying greatly on local knowledge pointing me in the right direction. So, but I can remember this very explicitly, that you take these basic ideas, which are numbers, different colors of lines, one is dotted, one is solid. You know, you take these basic tiny things, you know, this is an inch, but it's really 10 miles. And all of a sudden, all these things click into place. And it works on an incredibly intricate level. Although I remember specifically figuring out that maps could not be too detailed. Like if you map the table and then somebody moves the scissors, your map is irrelevant. So, but that you can have incredibly intricate things and then you can have incredibly broad things. And sort of like in the language of mathematics, that it can be universally understood. And the security, the feeling of security, particularly I think as I was a child, that came along with knowing that I had the potential not to get lost and had some control over the physical environs in which I existed. And I grew up in an enormous city, so that was really quite an event. Okay, so Kate learns to read a map.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Who is this one?
I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Should I move it?
Yes, please.
No, you don't need to move it.
I've never seen a silent chalkboard. Okay, mine is about riding a bike. The context is that when I was little, I fell and I just gave up on riding a bike. So I missed out on so many fun things that when I was older, actually when I was already married and had a kid, I went to another trip and I was about to miss out on one of the greatest bike rides that ever. And I decided I wasn't going to do that. So the day before the trip, I decided I was going to just go for it and do it. And so I tried to make those ideas that went through my head, put them into concepts or some whatever. So I just decided that the point one was deciding the outcome. I really wanted it so much to go to that trip that it made the fear go away. It was secondary, and I just wanted to go, so I had my mindset on that, which was what kept me from doing it before. Then I just thought of the idea of visualizing myself riding the bike, because what I wanted to do was not really just ride it. I just wanted to feel, I wanted to feel the air in my face, and I wanted to be able to look at all the landscapes that we were going to go and see. And I just saw myself riding it, and I thought, okay, I can do this. Then of course, I'd been watching others do it all the time, so I figured I could probably just go ahead and do that. And I got on and I started sort of calibrating the movements, because I just did it by myself, but I knew I had a deadline. I had to, by the end of the day, I had to get it done. So I just started quickly checking on my different body parts, but at the beginning it was painfully very conscious. I was very conscious of every part of my body, and everything sort of hurt because I was very, very tense. But as I started to sort of getting it along, I would start loosening up a little bit of my different body parts and of course I fell and I bumped into things, but I started sort of checking what went on, and as soon as that part of the body would sort of go loose, as I figured, how that part should work, and that's trying to reach balance. And the small results, of course, would be the best thing, because as soon as I was able to just go through a small length successfully, I would just get a feeling of the air on my face, and then I would just decide I wanted to keep on going and keep on doing that. And of course, so I started to practice, and I was there, all afternoon, making sure that I would be ready for the next day.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the next one.
So when I was 17 or 16 or something, I went to Sweden as an exchange student in high school. And so in order to do that, I was just thrown into a normal family and a normal high school, so I had to learn the language, and I didn't know the language at all. So I wrote about that, and I think a little bit differently from some of these other ones, I noticed that I focused a lot less on how I learned and more on how I felt while I was going through the process. So it's a little bit more of a cognitive psychology map. So at the very beginning, the first couple months over the summer before I went, I took a couple of classes, so there was sort of a professional help. And I had a book. And I initially I think I sort of felt, oh, this is no problem, I can do this. This is, it's hard, but I can do it. And then I got there, and maybe the first month or so, I still kind of felt that way, but then it started getting more and more difficult, especially as school started happening, and everything was in foreign language. I'm sure a number of people here can probably relate to this experience. So I didn't know what was going on. A lot of confusion, feeling overwhelmed, feeling very alone, and feeling kind of childlike and unable to really participate. And so there was a lot of incentive and motivation. It comes back to some of the other comments that people have been talking about, the requirement or the extreme motivation just by whatever you really wanted to learn it for whatever reason. Here it was sort of a necessity, so there was a lot of impetus to learn it. Throughout this time, there were a lot of moments of failure and struggle and challenge, and this made me feel like I had a lack of self-worth during this period. But then there were also breakthrough moments where you felt very satisfied, very elated, these sort of like this magic moment here, feeling successful times. And there was sort of a sense overall here of growing movement and transition, sort of like going from childhood to adulthood, all in very short order, sort of like going from being unable to speak to being able to speak is very much a growing process. And then there was sort of a point where I started to be able to communicate on a sort of more day-to-day level. I mean, it wasn't fluency necessarily, but I could sort of get my basic needs across and do things. There's actually a chart down here, so these are the first 2 months. This is my fluency, and this is time. Okay. So these are the first 2 months are sort of a slow curve. Then I get there, I'm actually in the country, and bang, I start really working very hard and being immersed, and there's a very steep learning curve. And then it kind of starts to plateau out once you get kind of a basic rudimentary understanding of the language. And so then the last section here, which I'm going to talk about, is more of a plateau, where there's still transformation and change, but you've kind of got the basics down, and so what you're learning is more like nuances and more complicated ideas rather than your sort of basic grammar and vocabulary. And also, along with that, there was sort of a gradual incorporation into society, where I started feeling like a real person that could really communicate and interact on a regular way with other people. And a strong sense of satisfaction, accomplishment, and self-worth that comes along with acquiring a skill, like Austin was talking about. And a feeling like I had sort of come to some sort of, well, I said adulthood here, maybe it's more like adolescence, like teenager. At least I wasn't, I remember sitting on the bus at various points and hearing all these little kids talking to each other, being like, I would give so much to just be able to talk at like a 4th grade level, 2nd grade level, like being able to like communicate effectively even at like a 12-year-old level, whatever it was pretty exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one.
I did drive a car, and I'm sitting back there thinking this is definitely not the way that you should learn to drive a car, but it was the way I had to do it. So not given the opportunity until I was in college, I was determined that I was going to get my mobility, and I didn't have a car. So I contracted with the driving school. Of course, it was 7 lessons and it was paid for. So each lesson concentrated on specific skills with some practice. And with those skills, I should have added here, licensed driver then, as a result of the 7 one-hour lessons. And what was lacking, of course, in that learning process was practice, which is really frightening when I think back on it. But with that license, I was able then to buy my car, and then I had practice. So I would not advise this as the way to do it, but it was the way it happened. So.
And the expression you decided?
These are things, my feelings at the time. I can't say they've changed much.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you read the next one?
Renee, hi. And this is about rock climbing. And at first, the first level was actually a kind of understanding the challenge, looking at the mountain and kind of saying, oh, crap.
I thought that was you falling off.
Then I would look at other people doing it. You just kind of climb, it's no problem. And then on my way to the mountain, someone stopped me and said, no, there are rules. And there's equipment that you need to learn how to use. And so then, okay, fine. I put it on and I started climbing. And someone was holding me, someone was taking care of me, and then someone was giving me guidance. Do this, do that. And then, of course, this is where I fall. And I went, ah!
Yeah, but you had the safety ropes on.
Exactly. And my instructor went, ah! And the guy holding me went, ah! And then my friend went, so there were lots of things going on at the same time. And so after falling a number of times and not really reaching my goal, one of the things, what I realized was that I actually needed to, I guess what I did here actually was change my perspective. It wasn't about going up, it was about looking at it as a wall and not as a goal. And so it was about looking for the little places where to put my feet and hold and put my hands, and that is what I was learning, really, not how to get to the top. And that is what I used to get to the top. But this was the skill that I was really learning.
Okay, thank you very much. Very instructive. Who is the next one? Claudia.
Should I move it, or is it okay here?
I can see it there.
Okay. Okay, so this is my representation about an experience that didn't happen in the past, but it's still happening. So it's something, it's a combination between what goes throughout my mind and how do I feel towards the experience I'm going through. So it's an experience about a specific integration in a group, in a focus group that has a different vision of the world than compared to the one I had before I came into this focus group. So here the first thing that I did was, why did I go there and for what reasons? I was searching for something that I didn't know exactly what it was, and that it was an understanding of the world, which I say here is understanding of the world number 1, which is a specific one. And when I came into there was a period of adaptation, of assimilation of different ideas, of different views of the world, of why we are here, what is your understanding about our relationship with others, and how do we deal with that. So what is the role, and the first question that came into my mind was, what is the role of the individual in the world, in the cosmos as a whole? So there's this bubble here where you go through this process of assimilation of new ideas and new conceptions of the world. And then you go through a confused process of reconfiguration of your own ideas compared to the ones that you are receiving from the others. And then you go through a new readaptation to a new language after you have assimilated all these new ideas. And then, I mean, this is a process that it doesn't exactly goes like this. It can go this way, back, and it can go from here to here. I mean, it's not a linear thing. Probably it should be more like a round thing. And then the thing is that you go back to the beginning again. There's no it's not a particular objective where you go through this, this, and this, and the result is that. You don't know exactly what the result is, and you keep searching for something. I mean, there's no answers for a specific question or specific fear or specific whatever. And then you actually have, and you actually need to have a new understanding of the world, which is an understanding of the world too. It doesn't mean it's a different one. It's a different one from this one, but it's not opposed to that one. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you
I
very
just
much.
stop here.
Who will be the next?
So this is how I learned to type. So first I had to construct a supportive environment for learning, which, get a computer, get a comfortable chair, get a program that would help you practice. Then you have to select the first skill to learn, a very concrete skill, practice. And so obviously at first it's slow, but then after a while you start to get fast and sort of semi-conscious. You don't really have to think about what you're doing too much. Then you sort of once you feel comfortable with that, you start thinking, well, what's the next skill I learned to learn? You determine that, and then just keep looping around. So the skills that I went through were just the physical position of my body and hands, typing a single character, typing a short string of characters, typing more complex strings, and then progressively using less of my brain, less cognitive resources, and attention devoted to the physical side of it. And I could start bringing more mental aspects of thinking about what I was typing while I was tapping away.
Okay, thank you. The process in the right is the cycle.
Yeah, loops of the cycle.
Okay, different loops of the cycle.
Yeah, so like basically skill one, go around there, there.
Okay, thank you very much. How I learned to ski.
Yeah. So learning how to ski was very memorable for me because I was born and raised in the Caribbean, so the only white thing I was used to seeing on the ground was sand. I'd never seen snow before, so that was the first thing. And then secondly, I had a one-legged ski instructor, so that was also really interesting. So I really remember it. So anyway, you start off, you're piled into this ski school with all these people that you don't know, and they kind of give you verbal instructions and tell you, how to lean and put your feet like this if you want to stop. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. That's no problem. So then they put you on this bunny slope, which is this small hill, but it seems really big to me. And then you have to put into practice, these directives that they've given to you. And so through the process, I made a lot of mistakes. I fell down a lot. And actually my favorite way of stopping was just crashing into somebody. That's how I would stop myself.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. So, you embarrass yourself and, but then, you just get up and you try again. And so then I learned how to correct my mistakes, and my instructor, didn't abandon me. So their encouragement, then you get the hang of it and you kind of build confidence. And then I was like a speed demon and I would like zoom everywhere. So that was fun once, yeah. No, after bunny slope, I actually graduated off the bunny slope, and it was good because I realized that I had a lot, a less way to fall than the adults did because I was just a little kid. So that gave me confidence too. But I just summarized the cycle as, listening and receiving verbal instructions, and then practice and implementation of the knowledge that I received, and then taking that knowledge and trying it, but having to make mistakes because it's not perfectly translated from theory to practice. But through making those mistakes, improving and correcting myself so that I achieve the goal of how to speak.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that okay here? Yeah. So mine is a very recent experience actually, which I have still something to learn because I'm an ongoing process because it's so dynamic. It is how I learned keyline system in Boston before coming.
That is a good one. I like to learn that one.
before coming here, I had some experience with different T lines in different cities, including some in Europe. And I had some impression about the one in the United States. And before coming to Boston, we were given some information about it. So I had some assumptions, and I was expecting really, it is good. I was expecting after the told information something else different. And then I come here. So those were the assumptions that I had with my previous practical experience and also the knowledge about Boston. Then we came here and we tried once how to write within a T line in Boston, and that was okay. And then I started to use my mouse. And there were something that I learned which were explicit, that can be learned by observation. So how the people stay there, how the people go in, how the people go out, something like that. And there are some things that, the rules, how to buy ticket, how to, observe the changes, something like that. But I didn't know about some of the things that are happening, but it requires some experience, observation. For instance, arrival time. I was trying to find out at what time I should be in the stops, and I couldn't find anywhere in the schedule. And I looked, and I found out sometime, I think it was in such a strange place that nobody was looking at there because nobody was caring, but it was very strange to me. Yeah, and then afterwards I understood that the train does not obey the schedule. That's why I don't like care. But I was caring and looking at that. And there are sometimes it is a green line, and I was waiting for in the green line there. And I think there was something blocking that line, and the D line didn't come. No. Too long time, after a while, I didn't realize. And then there was a bell, ling, 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 ling. I said, D line was at the other side. Oh, yeah. I should go to the other. So this is the experience that there are happening some immediate changes that you cannot, be told that. You should be there and you should observe it. And I lost sometimes some goods in the T line, and I understood that nobody should lose anything in the T line, otherwise they cannot find it anyway. So these kind of things that are learned. And when I come here after these stages, and then when I compare it with my assumptions, there were lots of things that didn't match beforehand with my knowledge. So I understand that learning is not enough by reading or by being told or with the experiences of others. When you go, knowing what is going on beforehand on the what information given to you, even your observation may not mean everything. Unless you don't try the thing by yourself by application, then you understand. And of course, there are some things that from one point to the other one, which would be the best connection? Is that the T line, bus, another T line, or T line, another T line? Some kind of things are learned by experience, by your experience.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Everybody, no? Okay.
I want to show even though I did a graphic, but I think it's an important one to show. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is I learned to ski when I was 26. What should I do?
It's okay.
Okay. I learned to ski when I was 28. My daughter was 4 years old. The only reason I went to learn to ski was because she wants to learn to ski. I didn't want her to be afraid of ski. So I never left the rope. This is the bunny. I was not sure enough. The bunny. So that was as far we got.
The main reason I couldn't get to the previous ones because my only concern was the rope. I hate the rope. And because I couldn't pass the rope, I couldn't get to the larger one. And of course, I was afraid that. So my daughter finally, she was able to teach me how to get to the rope. And once that we got to the rope, of course, I would be more afraid. When I was holding her, I was able to go all the way down because my concern was I was focused that I needed to do because she was doing it. But anyways, so the first, when I started to figure out that my fear was the rope, I started then to understand the prospects of what I needed to do, and I was able to go to the small hill. Then once that we did this, we were able to get to the larger one. But even though in the larger one, I still had my same concern was how she was going to get down. And we did together for the first time, but once that she realized that she knew better than I did, and I went down with her, I was able to go all the way down, but once that she learned how to do it, and I knew she was going by myself, I never made it until the middle. Somebody always had to come to recruit me to the end. So anyways, my idea was that the only way I went, because I hate the cold, the only way I could see myself doing was to teach her, not to do it myself. So after that, I went a couple other times, but I rather do the lunge than I did do the skiing myself. And then of course, 2 years later, I went again to do my son's, which then chose to do the snowboarding. And that was the end of my skiing career. So, but anyways, I think the fear, it was my main fact, but the confidence of helping them to ski, it was the best thing of all. But now, one thing that I found, my kids today, when my daughter's in college, she had to write that my mother taught me how to ski. Nobody believes, but I did.
Thank you very much. We have 10 minutes or no? No?
I have a class at 1 and
Okay.
I have...
Okay.
It doesn't mean I don't love you, it just means I'm hungry.
5 minutes. Okay? Claudia was trying to identify some patterns in your explanation. What?
Yeah, meeting tomorrow morning again. Every day.
Yes, yes. Yes. Okay. It was interesting because things that brought in my mind was that most of the cases we began with instructions. Okay? But with the instruction we had some assumptions too. So we assimilate the instructions using the assumption we have about ski for snowboarding, about the use of the T but in another country. So we don't receive the instructions in a pure way, no? We understand the instruction in some way different based on our previous experience. The other thing important is the role of the mistakes, no? I think was very important for everyone. The other thing was the role of the success, the magic moment, no? It's we can improve our learning when we have some kind of success that works as a ground for the new level of learning, no? I think that is many people talk about this component, and in some cases I thought much more complex because you told about different levels of acquiring the domain of the skill, no? And in other cases, it was described just like a single process, from learning the instructions until to be able to do something, and not as a cycle. No, some explanations, but the other thing that I would like you to put attention is for your experience in describing a learning experience. Okay? The experience of the last half hour or 1 hour perhaps, okay? It's an effort for making explicit some tacit knowledge you have. Okay? So the effort for explaining us, one way to make tacit knowledge explicit is when we try to explain to other people. We have never thought consciously about that before we try to explain. In the effort for explain other people, we get aware of how we have our experience. Okay? Tomorrow we will begin 9 o'clock. We will be dedicated to the practice of reflection, the way how to step back to an experience in a more structured way, like more than we made today. We will do this with Ceasar McDowell. He will be with us tomorrow.
Just wanted to make one comment that I thought was sort of interesting was the way in which people described their learning processes and how they related to the surrounding context, and how some people were more focused on the context and other people kind of edited out the context, either the physical context or the psychological context or the social context of other people who helped them, or the actual physicality of it, or it was just interesting to me how that factored into the way that people described it, and how that might tell us something about it. Like, it's not all just a mental thing, but there's something happening around us.
There's different levels of abstraction too. Every person has different levels of ability to abstract.
And many people begins but getting prepared. Okay? Some others don't get prepared. They just go to the action. The other thing is that this moment that you told here, to feel confused, no? That we can fail, and this triggers a lot of effort to learn in a new way, no? It's two critical moments I feel. One is this one of the feeling of failure, and the other one is the magic moment when we are achieving to get things done. Okay? We have no time to analyze the experience today a bit more. I'd like you, before leaving, please each one put your name in the experience. Okay?